trimethylamine. In this condition, you're not able to break it down, and you get this in foods that are high protein foods that are high in choline. So you've got meat, fish, the yolks of eggs, peas, beans, you know the whole list, because you know Ellie's following a fairly strict diet, and your body's unable to break that down into transmethylamine oxide, which is odorless. But the transmethylamine, say TMA, is very smelly, and so of course that builds up, and you secrete this in your sweat, in your urine, and in your breath, and so of course you do smell fishy and offensive to other people.
So 1% of the population carry this gene, which can be passed on to other family members, but that's not what happened in your case, is it?
No, there's two types. There's TMAU1, which is the genetic, which can be passed on, and there's TMAU2, which is what I've got, which is acquired, which can happen through liver damage or damage to the digestive enzymes, one in particular, which is FMO3. And my endocrinologist thinks that's happened to me because of a sustained course of antibiotics I had about 14 years ago, which is quite aggressive. And it is known there is a connection. A few other people that I know through the support group that have type 2 seem to have acquired it in the same way. The connection's not really understood.
So did it just happen overnight, or did it creep in?
No, well, I'm not sure, to be honest, because I can only smell it when it's really, really bad, and then I can smell it, but most of the time I can't. But I began to become aware of it over time, over maybe 3 years. I began to think my office at work smelt a bit odd. I thought my wardrobe smelt a bit odd. Obviously, it was the smell clinging on my clothes. Yeah. And then I started to get comments from people.
So
and
it's
then
a shock when you suddenly realise it's you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it. And there was one point, I thought my cat had brought in a dead mouse or rat, and I spent about 2 weeks looking for this decomposing body, and that was when it actually dawned on me, oh my God, it's me. I was wiping my body down with detergent and with disinfectant.
You rubbed yourself red raw.
Yeah, yeah. My skin was peeling and I was in quite a lot of pain.
Gosh.
But it wasn't helping because I didn't realise it was metabolic. It was internal. It was nothing to do with bacteria on the outside of my skin. It was bacteria breaking down food in the wrong way in my body.
And dealing with it with yourself is one thing, but the hardest part is dealing with other people's reactions to you.
Yeah.
And people were incredibly cruel to you.
Yes, it wasn't great, and if I still have bad days, sometimes you still overhear comments. But I don't blame anyone for their reaction, because it is a social taboo being smelly, and it's ignorance really. The person sitting next to you on the bus doesn't know it's because you've got a medical condition. They think you don't wash.
Yeah.
And although the comments aren't helpful and the cruelty isn't helpful, I'm not trying to understand it, or excuse it, but I don't blame. But what I do now, because I have the diagnosis, I know what to do about it, I'm confident now, I will take people aside and say, look, it's a medical condition caused by, I'm doing what I can, but I really can't help it.
Well, you make it sound as if you cope with it beautifully there, but it did go through a stage where it really was debilitating mentally.
Yes.
People in the Secret Santa at work giving you soap, and someone just spraying perfume through your letterbox. I mean, there were thoughts of suicide, weren't there?
There was a period in 2009 when I was living by myself where I felt very isolated. I didn't want to get out of bed even to go to work. It was the time when someone posted the body spray through my letterbox, and it was a day where I'd had an entire bus laughing at me, and I just went home and cried and thought, okay, this might be time to shuffle off.
Yeah.
But I thought about my friends and family and how supportive they were being, and I thought, no, that's not the answer.
You finally managed to get a diagnosis. It's heartbreaking when you find out that it's incurable, but it can be alleviated, it can be helped, and I know that diet is a very important thing, and Chris mentioned that that early on. And I would have to say, as we sit here now, I can't smell anything at all.
No,
there is
I can't.
no odour whatsoever.
I didn't know what to expect.
Well, I gave you a kiss when you
don't
came in
know.
as well, and it's only human nature to think, I wonder,
Yeah.
and I gave you a kiss and didn't smell a single thing.
Thank you for telling me that, because that means the diet must be working.
Yes, and I'm right next to you. No smell.
So what is the diet?
Well, as Dr. Chris was saying, choline is the compound that you can't process, and also the compound that trimethylamine is made of is also trimethylamine, which is present in degrees mainly in proteins, but highest in fish. Trimethylamine's highest in fish, which if you eat a lot of fish, you will have the fish odour. But that's a bit of a misnomer. Many people who have it actually smell like rotten eggs or ammonia rather than fish. And meat, any kinds of meats, animal proteins. Dairy is bad because it's high. Wheat-fed cows produce milk that's very high in TMA, which is trimethylamine. Beans, peas, legumes, basically everything that you said, but there are other things like coffee as well is quite bad.
What do you eat? It sounds like you've sort of ruled everything out.
Chocolate's bad. My diet varies. It used to be very strict. It used to just be strawberries, apples, pears, carrots and cucumbers.
And you lost an awful lot of weight.
I went down to 7 stone, and I really wasn't very well physically or mentally. And I've gradually increased certain things into my diet, so I've put weight back on and I'm physically very healthy. But I don't eat much out of that range. I will have some breads. Oat bread seems okay for me. Oats seem okay, a little bit of rice, but again, grains and whole grains, the things you traditionally think were healthy, actually are really bad. So soybeans, which is supposed to be quite healthy, really, really bad.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's just a case of finding out what works for you, but you're dealing with it incredibly well.
Everyone with it reacts slightly differently to the foods that don't help.
What treatment are you taking, as well as the dietary control?
There's a set protocol, actually, that patients with TMAU are given by endocrinologists if they're lucky enough to have one. And the starting point is you have ironically enough, you have a set of quite aggressive antibiotics to clear the gut out of the bad bacteria, because it's the bacteria not breaking the food down in the right way that's part of the problem. Then you have strong probiotics to reintroduce the good bacteria. So all of that stuff about bad bacteria and good bacteria is actually true. That makes a massive difference. You take riboflavin, B2, which helps if there's any enzyme function left, it will kickstart that. That really works for me. You also take chlorophyll, which somehow absorbs the toxins in the gut, and charcoal, which does the same thing.
Boots sponsors This Morning.
Bike insurance this way. Just ask for Harley David. Hi. Hi, and we're looking for home insurance.
Home insurance, eh? You want to see Glyn, the house whisperer. Some say he was raised on the